So we've got the handroom activated wheels. So they are the Twions, and I've got the M15s. That's the Emotion wheels. The M15s is the model, yeah. Emotions is the brand name, yeah. So the Twions and the Emotion wheels come from Invacare. The eMove wheels come from DME. The Smart Drive you can do through DME, Melrose and Tylite. So they are wheels that literally go onto the chair and you propel them through your standard, like how you would propel a wheelchair, through the rims. Your power add-on units or joystick controls, they literally will turn your manual wheelchair into a power chair. So there's three options there. There's a ZX1, which DME do in Melrose. There is the eFix, which is Invacare, and the eDrive, which is DME as well. And then we move into the trike options. So these are big wheel, bike orientated type things that attach to the front of your wheelchairs. And these are the ones you can tend to do longer distances. Certainly can do a lot more speed, as you'll discover. Should have done a disclaimer actually, thinking about it. So you've got the Bartec from DME and the Firefly and the Tri-Rider from Mobility Solutions. They're great if your client can lift them into the car. Okay, I think your Twions are the 6 kilos. That's one per one wheel. So it is, if you've got someone who's doing it independently, that's what they need to be doing. A lot of these people will have carers who do it for them, and that's great. So that still increases your portability, but it may not increase independence. I think the important thing to remember here is a client who is knowingly rough on equipment, who has a history of damaging lots of things. We all have clients who do some interesting things to power chairs and we're constantly replacing stuff. These may not be the right option for them. Some of them are more fragile than others. Some of them have the sensors that are in the actual rim, so if you are bumping into things, they can break and they need to go to the subcontractor. If you've got a client that's doing that regularly, they don't have them to use. The wrong solution is no solution. So if they don't actually have it for a good part of their time because it's being fixed, it's not working for them. So again, these power assist options, it will say that they're good on things like grass and all-terrain options. They are to a degree, but they're not good for the full-on getting out in the rough stuff. So again, it comes back to what you want to use them for. If they want to be out there on rugby fields in the middle of winter, possibly not the right option for them. But they'll get on, you know, basic short wet grass, it's fair enough to say, eh? On a normal day. They all can be programmed to a degree. The eMove wheels have the better ability to be able to program them. For example, if you've got someone who has had a stroke and they've only got use of one arm, that can be programmed into these, or if they have an unsymmetrical push, that can be programmed in, and the technicians and the suppliers will do that with you during the trial. So the Smart Drive is a 5th wheel that's powered at the back. It's probably the easiest one to get in and out of a car personally. It weighs 6 kilos and that is the battery and everything that's in it. You wear a band, you do your standard push to go, and then you tap your hand to stop it. There is a communication via Bluetooth within them. From the portability perspective, independence is probably one of the devices that you can do the most with, but you need to have the right client. They need to be completely cognitively capable. They need to be a pretty efficient self-propeller to begin with. I've certainly seen able-bodied people run themselves into a concrete wall with these. So there is a level of safety that you need to adopt when you are using this, but you get the right client for it and it opens up their world like nothing else. The suppliers are very good at being able to talk you through that, and obviously this is the type of piece of equipment that you need to do the trial with a supplier, because there are lots of safety issues and stuff with it. The other thing is that we've had a lot of clients who think that they're great for going up hills. They are if you've got a good push. So this is the type of equipment that if you've got a good push to start with, it will go places. So if you stop on a hill, you might be able to start again, but you've got to have the strength to be able to do that good push. Where if you look at some of the other rim assisted ones like the eMove and the Emotion wheels, you need less push to do it. So you don't need the strength to start that push off. Well, we get a fair few requests for these in schools and for children. Now there is no blanket rule to say that we won't fund for children, but we pretty much don't. Yeah, none of us have. There are some safety concerns with that. In an outside schools, like I said, you need to be pretty cognitively capable. There might be a child out there in a situation where it is an option to consider, which is why we don't want to blanket rule it, but generally it is not something that we would fund. I mean, these guys are still learning, and
the safety concerns about use in a school we think outweigh the potential benefits you'll get from it, and particularly as the smart drive will operate based on the chair moving, and a number of the accidents that have happened have been from someone going, oh, they need a little bit of help, they push the chair and the smart drive rockets off. Yes, you can stop it, but in a school environment we can see this happening more in that the chair's just innocently pushed, it's knocked, it's moved, and if the smart drive's still on, this chair's going to go.
The power add-on units, the ZX one especially is really great. It allows for independent attachment and detachment, which is really cool. So it's a little power machine, you back your chair up into it, press a button and it attaches to it, and then you can just drive off with a little power unit underneath. It does have low clearance, ground clearance, so you need to consider things like that about, again, where you're going to use it. But the little feature that we loved about that and learnt through this process was that while it's on a chair, you can take off the wheels on the manual chair, the self-propelling wheel, and it narrows the chair up. What did we work out? Was it 10 centimetres? Yeah, quite significantly. So if you've got clients where housing mods are not appropriate or they access somewhere where space is a huge issue, it just gives you another option. And we certainly all went, oh, actually, we've come across situations where we could have done this and didn't. So obviously with these, the clients need to have the ability to drive a power chair. So the same assessments you would do for someone with a power chair, it's the same with these power add-ons. Quite often these don't travel as far as a power chair though, so you need to consider that in your distance and what your client's going to travel and what their goals are around this. Again, it can be an option if you've put someone in some complex seating, but they need to go the power and it's just too difficult to switch seating across, or it's too expensive to get a second lot of seating. For example, if someone's in MAPS or some type of custom seating, then this is a way of turning a manual chair into a power chair, and they get both options. Although from what we're gathering from the suppliers, once the clients get them on, they don't generally take them off. So, and again, as they say, why would you if all of a sudden you've got a chair that does everything for you set up? So lastly, there's the power add-on units, the trike units. Now, these are generally for the long distances you need to do if you need to get anywhere in speed. Yes, they can be used inside, especially malls and things like that. They're not necessarily designed for indoor use as in your home. Some of them are longer than others by the time you attach it on, so depending on your space at home you may be able to use it, but it's not necessarily functional because you can't get out, you can't get close to anything. If you want to transfer out of your chair, you need to take it off. So this is mainly for your outdoor long distance. They can go really, really fast, so you need to think about who you've got in it, but the suppliers again can program that speed down. Some of them can do up to 50 kilometres, and some clients will use them like a car. This type of stuff is generally around work. We have done a couple of these and they've all been work orientated. Yeah.
I believe a number of these are also being privately funded for people who don't meet Ministry of Health criteria for access in the community, and that it's not deemed essential for our criteria, but in saying that it's a great way of being able to get into town, meet with your friends, go do your shopping and things like that. So yeah, like I said, these ones are not all ministry funded, and cost-wise are actually achievable through alternative sources of funding.
I had a client recently who's they owned a vineyard. So they had money. Not all our clients do. And they were wanting a power assist option. So we'd already identified that this client didn't meet criteria, but we were still helping this family through the problem solving. And we'd come up with a couple of options, and we talked around, it was around the $10,000 mark. And the husband he was very honest with me. He said, look, I've got the money, but it's still 10 grand, is it? He was trying to work out if, I suppose, the juice was worth the squeeze type thing. And I said to him, if your wife was still driving, would she have her own car? Would you have a second car? And he was like, yeah, of course she would. And I said, would that cost more than $10,000? And he went, oh, yep, done deal. We don't need to discuss this anymore. This is where my money needs to be spent. So for him, it's just, they need to work out how important it is to them, and people will buy things if they have the money. Like I said, there are groups of clients that that's not an option, but there is lots of fundraising and other avenues that can be done for that as well. Your suppliers are key for information. You do need to use them. We do. We've done all this work. We have learnt so much, but I still will not be hesitating to pick up the phone to be speaking to them about stuff. It's new-ish for all of us, but just the way that we intertwine them with different manual chairs and how they're going to be used, there's no way you can keep up with all that information, so use your suppliers. The really important thing, and all of these guys will say this to you because it's a frustrating thing for everyone in the process, make sure you give them the right information. They need to know the make of the chair, the model of the chair, because what they need to do, generally all of the things have clamps that go somewhere, and those clamps need to be the right size. If you're not giving them all the information or where the wheels go, the right size for that, you're going to turn up for a trial and it's not going to work. So the more information you can give them, the better about that. The other thing to think about is, from a research perspective, is YouTube is fantastic for research. I spent hours on YouTube to do with work stuff, looking at how people are using equipment around the world. The other thing that I spent hours on, generally at night, and this is very, very sad, but it is a wealth of information, is online blogs for users. The spinal group, they tend to be the biggest ones, but there's lots of blogs out there, and I got on to one to do with all the smart drives and stuff, and there was heaps of mums saying, oh yeah, my kids tried a smart drive, didn't work. I can see why they say not, to use it for kids and all the rest of it, but you get so much client information and feedback from those online blogs. So I certainly can't recommend if you've got time and want to do that. Most of the research that has been done of late has been around the smart wheels, so the rim activated wheels, so your emotion wheels, your Twions, your e-moves and things like that. Most of it again is done with the spinal community, not necessarily the community that we do. Looking at a lot of the outcomes, they all think they're great for the first 5 minutes, and then the realistic side kicks in after that, but they do say, most of the clients do say that it certainly opens up their world and gives them access to a lot of things. But all of the research says you need to make sure you get the environment stuff right and the client's functional abilities to make it work. As power assist has grown all around the world, it's been the big thing, more research will be coming through. And lastly, remind your clients of the self-funding options. This is really important stuff for them. There might not be access to Ministry of Health funding, but the Ministry of Health funding is not the only bank. There are other avenues to get funding, so you can direct them onto that.